Deep inside a cold prison in Pennsylvania, a heavy iron key turns with a sharp metallic click. The rusted door creaks open, revealing a path of golden sunlight spilling across the dark, dusty floor. But Thomas doesn't move. He remains perfectly still on his thin mattress, eyes fixed on the cold brick wall, as if he is still chained. When freedom is no longer just an open door, but a difficult choice of the soul, would you step out into the light or stay behind in the shadows? Thomas had spent 20 long years behind these gray walls for a crime he never committed. 2 decades of his life were stolen because of a single lie. One morning, a young guard stepped into the cell holding a stack of legal papers. "Thomas, you're free," the guard said, his voice filled with a mix of pity and relief. "The court has finally cleared your name. You can leave right now." But Thomas didn't stand up. He didn't even pack his small bag of belongings. He sat there, listening to the slow, steady tick of the clock on the wall. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Each second was a painful reminder of the years he would never get back. Inside his chest, a dark fire was burning. It was the fire of hatred for the man who had framed him, a flame he had kept alive to survive the cold nights. "I'm not going anywhere," Thomas replied, his voice sounding like dry gravel. He finally looked at the guard, his eyes cold and sharp. "I will stay right here until that man comes to this door, kneels on this floor, and begs for my forgiveness. He ruined my life. I won't move an inch until he says he's sorry." The guard stood there, confused. The gates were wide open, and the world was waiting outside. But for Thomas, the prison was no longer made of iron bars. It was built from his own anger. He chose to sit in the dark, feeding the fire that was slowly consuming his soul, waiting for a word that might never come. Then, an old man named Warden Miller walked slowly into the cell. Miller was just days away from retirement, and his face was a map of kindness and patience. He didn't tell Thomas to leave. He didn't tell him he was being stubborn. Instead, Miller simply sat down on the cold floor right next to Thomas. They sat in silence for a long time. The only sound was the wind whispering through the bars. After a while, Miller pointed to a small, old wooden chair in the corner of the room. "Thomas," he said softly, "if you are waiting for an apology before you leave, I think you should start with that chair. Go ahead. Ask it to apologize to you for making your back ache every single day for the last 20 years. Thomas snapped his head around, his face turning red with anger. "That's a piece of wood, Miller. Are you crazy? A chair can't feel anything. It can't speak. It's a mindless object. Why would I ask a piece of wood to say sorry?" Miller smiled, a gentle and compassionate look in his eyes. "Exactly," he whispered. "That chair has no soul. It doesn't care about your pain. But Thomas, have you considered that the person who hurt you has a heart that is just as hollow? To them, you were just an object in their way. Their conscience is like a rotten piece of wood." Miller leaned in closer, his voice like a warm breeze. "If you are waiting for a hollow piece of wood to find a voice and apologize so that you can finally be free, then tell me, Thomas, who is the one truly trapped here? Is it the person outside living their life? Or is it the man in this cell, handing over his keys to a ghost. Miller looked at Thomas's clenched fists and spoke softly. "Thomas, listen to me. It is okay to feel angry. Anyone in your shoes would feel the same fire burning in their heart. Your pain is real, and it is valid. But you must understand what this anger is truly doing to you. Imagine an invisible rope," Miller continued, gesturing slowly in the air. "This rope ties you directly to the man who hurt you. As long as you demand his apology before you leave, you are handing him the other end of that rope. Wherever he goes, you are pulled. If he chooses to stay silent, you choose to stay stuck in this cell. By waiting for his words, you are allowing him to keep you a prisoner even after the iron gates have opened." Thomas's shoulders began to tremble. The anger that had felt like a shield for 20 years was starting to feel like a suffocating weight. "Anger should be like water flowing over a stone," Miller said, his voice steady and calm. "It touches the surface, it feels the coldness, but it keeps moving forward. But your anger has become like a stagnant pond. It stays in one place until it turns bitter and toxic. You do not need his voice to find your own freedom." For the first time in 2 decades, Thomas turned his head toward the small, high window. Outside, a tiny sparrow landed on a dry, brittle branch. The bird didn't wait for a sign. It simply flapped its wings and took flight into the vast, open sky. In that moment, Thomas felt a strange lightness in his chest. The invisible rope he'd been gripping so tightly for 20 years finally slipped from his hands. Thomas stood up. He didn't pick up his blanket or look back at the gray walls. He simply walked toward the gate. As he moved down the long hallway, his footsteps sounded different, lighter, faster, and more alive. He stepped over the line, leaving the shadows behind forever. The sunlight was warm on his face, and for the first time in 20 years, he breathed in the air of a man who was truly free. He didn't need a word from anyone else to be whole again. The world doesn't owe us an apology for us to be happy. We often wait for a sorry that may never come, turning our own hearts into a cage while the person who hurt us moves on. But the truth is, forgiveness isn't about making their actions right. It is about opening the prison door for yourself. Is there a door in your heart that is already open, but you are still sitting inside, waiting for a reason to leave? Leave a heart in the comments if you are choosing to let go and walk into the light today. Stay calm and remember, your freedom is in your hands.